The time is now 6 o'clock. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stockton?
Here.
Councilmember Ritchie? Councilmember Ritchie? Councilmember Silva?
Here.
Councilmember Roberts?
Here.
Councilmember Wiley?
Here.
Vice Mayor Sullivan?
Here.
Mayor Roulette?
I am here. Thank you very much. We'll move to item 2, public comment. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to comment? Due to the special called meeting, it should be limited to business listed on this agenda only.
I see no hands.
Okay, we'll close public comment. We'll move to item 3, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This item is a consideration of making findings in accordance with AB 361. Our city attorney, Melinda Stewart, will be making a brief presentation on this item.
Thank you, City Manager, and good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. As the City Manager mentioned, the item before you tonight is consideration of a resolution which would allow continuation of remote public meetings for the City Council and any of your related or subsidiary boards and commissions with relaxed notice and location requirements during the current pandemic pursuant to Assembly Bill 361. Next slide, please. So as you know all too well, as the result of the pandemic, Governor Newsom, starting back in March of 2020, had issued a series of executive orders which suspended certain notice and location requirements of the Brown Act in order to enable agencies to conduct public meetings entirely remotely. Those orders did expire on September 30th of this year. However, earlier in September, the governor did sign an urgency measure which allows legislative bodies, such as the City Council, to continue to conduct remote meetings with the suspended Brown Act provisions under certain circumstances. So there has to be a current state of emergency declared by the governor, and either state or local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing, or the legislative body finds that holding in-person meetings would present imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees. If those findings are made, they must be revisited and renewed every 30 days in order to continue to conduct meetings remotely. So at this time, there is a current or active state of emergency proclaimed by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Other than some certain Cal OSHA requirements for social distancing in certain workplace situations, we are not aware of any social distancing measures being recommended or imposed by either state officials or our local officials. So if the council does desire to continue with remote meetings, you must make a determination that holding in-person meetings would present an imminent risk to health or safety of attendees. Next slide, please. So the staff report mentions the status of the COVID-19 transmission as tracked by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, otherwise known as CDC, as of October 2nd, 2021. The numbers on the slide here are the county's numbers updated as of last night. So you'll see that Solano County has a total of 43,983 cases. Actually, I think these numbers are not the current ones. So Solano County, I will just share with you my numbers that I have. Solano County has a total of 44,622 total cases. That's an increase of 639 cases since the fire chief reported on the COVID update at last week's council meeting. There are 514 active cases. That's 102 more than reported last week. The 7-day positivity rate is 2.5%. That's actually a decrease of 0.48% since the last meeting. And the ICU availability on the county's website as of last night is 23%. Also, Solano County is currently reporting a total of 11,736 total cases from Vacaville, which is an increase of 149 from last week's report. So sorry about the confusion on the slide. Next slide, please, Crystal. So also nationwide, the Delta variant continues to be highly contagious and has resulted in significant rates of infection, and it impacts both unvaccinated as well as we're seeing breakthrough cases in vaccinated people. In Solano County, cases are dropping from the surge in August. However, the numbers of active cases, hospitalizations, and transmission rates does continue to fluctuate. And these numbers put Solano County in the highest and most serious tier of the 4 transmission tiers established by the CDC, which measure community transmission. In Vacaville, we do continue to have some staff working remotely in order to keep our employees safe and the public safe and to prevent the spread of the virus. And we do have a mask mandate in place for inside city facilities for the same reasons. Next slide, please. So based on all of this information, staff is recommending adoption of the subject resolution. And I will say with an addition to include application to city council related boards, such as the Vacaville Housing Authority, which resolution would acknowledge that there is currently an existing state of emergency in place, and it makes the required findings that in-person meetings would present an imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees. And that would include public officials, city staff, and those who attend the meetings. So that concludes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions.
I'll entertain a motion with the addition. Anyone want to make a motion?
A motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Stockton,
No.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Robert,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sullivan,
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Yes. Okay, we'll move to item 4. Mr.
Thank
City
you.
Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. As you know, throughout the course of the year, we have been providing the council with some informational study sessions on a variety of topics that the new council will be dealing with during the course of their terms as elected officials. A very important one that we have been working on for your review tonight is the subject of economic development. And we have our entire economic development team here tonight with you. And with that, I will turn it over to Don Burris, our Economic Development Services Director, who will kick things off with a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Mayor Roulette, Vice Mayor Sullivan, and members of the City Council. This evening, the Economic Development Department will present an overview of what economic development is, how we do it, how we measure success, and the impact our efforts have on the overall community. Some of the key topics we'll cover: what is economic development? Why is it important? Economic development public policy, economic development process, core economic development programs, program updates, measures of success, and we'll close out our presentation with community impact. So for the sake of the public who oftentimes have no idea what our team is or don't get a chance to see us out in public, I thought I'd give just a quick introduction to who our economic development team is. So again, for the public's sake, my name is Don Burris, and I'm the Director of Economic Development Services. As part of our team, we also have Tim Padden, who is our Economic Development Manager. And then we also have two very helpful assistants, Crystal Farewelty and Carson Yako. So oftentimes people ask, so what actually is economic development? And there are many, many definitions, but I believe this definition kind of really sums it up for the work that we do here in the city of Vacaville. So economic development can be defined as a program, group of policies, or a set of activities that seek to improve the economic well-being and quality of life for a community by creating and or retaining high-value jobs that facilitate economic growth and provide a stable tax base. To that definition of economic development are actions that are focused on ways to catalyze and improve the economic well-being of our community. This is done in both qualitative and quantitative ways. Both of these terms are frequently used by economists to describe the direction of change that can occur when there's growth in the economy. Qualitative would be things that influence economic growth that may not have an actual data point that directly correlates to the economic growth. So examples would be social media postings, murals in public art, and special events. These things all add to the vibrancy of a community, but oftentimes a direct correlation cannot be made. The qualitative aspect of economic development is a little easier to identify and track, as we have data points that reflects the work that we do. Example of those data points that you may be more familiar with would be unemployment rate numbers, sales tax generation, and job creation numbers. So why is economic development important? Economic growth is not always organic. Generally speaking, the economy can do well over time, and then because of market conditions, growth can begin to decline and oftentimes flatten out. This is where economic development initiatives and programs can help. They can act as a catalyst to help make job creators, investors, and developers aware that there is economic opportunity in our community. So economic development and public policies, again, these are two things that really go hand in hand. Public policy plays a critical role in the success of economic development programs, and they generally encompass three major areas. So government policies, these are policies at all levels of government that we undertake to meet very broad economic objectives. Examples would be GoBiz, which is our state economic development agency, and the Solano County Economic Development Corporation, which is, as the title suggests, is our county economic development agency, and finally, our own city economic development department. All of these agencies are focused on creating policies that can help grow our local economy. So city level policies are just as important as the state and county level. Policies and programs that support our public infrastructure are necessary to retain and attract new business into our business parks, our downtown, and throughout the city. We also need policies that improve the business climate. So providing an environment where businesses can flourish will help maintain a strong economy. This policy is also present in our City Council Strategic Plan implementation strategies. Goal number 2, which is strengthen the local economy, and implementation strategy number 5, create an effective development approval process. So as you see here, our programs in economic development are directly correlate with the City Council's strategic plan, very specifically as priority number 1. The implementation strategies you see on the screen are all strategies that are currently in implementation. The COVID-19 economic recovery strategy is in play. We are currently still implementing the biotechnology and advanced manufacturing strategies. We have expanded our relationships with existing partners, our Solano County Workforce Development Board, to meet the need of local businesses. We are working with Travis Air Force Base as well in an attempts to create a data logistics program. And then we're working with our Economic Development Advisory Committee to develop citywide business incentives to help foster and create some economic diversification. The last implementation strategy, create an efficient development approval process. We'll begin that process shortly now that we do have Ms. Erin Morris, our new Community Development Director, on board to help lead this effort with us. So although strategies and initiatives are important, it's really important for everyone to understand what that actual economic development process is.
Thank you, Don. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. Tim Padden, Economic Development Manager. So how do we do this work to enhance our economy? We do this in many ways, as this illustration gives you a high-level view of how the economic development process occurs. Who are economic developers? Economic developers consist of the Chamber of Commerce, Visit Vacaville, Downtown Vacaville, site selectors, economic development corporations like the Solano EDC, the Workforce Development Board of Solano County, and commercial realtors. We connect employers to business resources. We help businesses overcome barriers by assisting them through the state, county, and city regulatory processes. We also connect them to financial resources and to our local talent pool. As the thought leaders, economic developers look for innovative ways to create strategic programs and resources for the business community. Through adequate resources, reducing barriers, and innovation, businesses have a greater chance of success. In turn, successful businesses generate taxes, create jobs, and oftentimes become a part of the social fabric of a community. Together, these actions help create a vibrant community, as a successful business may provide resources to the community needed for parks, public infrastructure, public safety, housing funds, quality of life, and public employees. This is an ongoing process that builds a strong local economy. The work continues. With the help of economic professionals, we perform an analysis of the national, regional, and local economies. This analysis is then used to identify the economic drivers for the city of Vacaville. We then use this data to develop strategies and initiatives that can positively impact the economic drivers. Identifying key economic drivers allows for local economic development staff to focus on influencing drivers such as land use, the development code, fees, and the workforce needs of the community. Development of a city economic development strategy includes analysis of the economic profile and its current strengths and weaknesses, analysis of relevant trends. For example, how can innovation policies enhance cluster development and how to respond to demographic and labor market shifts? Development of a challenging long-term vision for the next 10 to 15 years that can be characterized as both realistic and ambitious, and establishing concrete objectives and milestones. Currently, economic development staff has implemented 3 initiatives. The biotechnology and advanced manufacturing strategy was created to attract more biomanufacturers and advanced manufacturers, as these industries create high-value jobs. This strategy has had some success, as we will soon be working with Agenus as they begin the development process of their new campus. Staff is currently working with several other biomanufacturers who have expressed interest in locating operations in Vacaville. To help facilitate biotech investment and position Vacaville as the epicenter of biomanufacturing, staff continues to work with the newly formed nonprofit California Biomanufacturing Center. The recovery strategy is a 3-year strategy created to assist Vacaville businesses, primarily small and local businesses, recover from the negative impacts of COVID-19. Economic recovery action items are organized into 3 categories. 1, traded sector, where local businesses compete nationally and internationally. 2, local serving businesses, which includes the majority of Vacaville businesses. These businesses are your retail, restaurants, and other small businesses. And 3 are visitor-oriented businesses. These include our hotels and tourism-related businesses. This strategy also includes action items from the City Council Strategic Plan and the Biotech and Advanced Manufacturing Initiatives. Some of the action items from the strategy include the development of a COVID-19 recovery webpage, an economic recovery dashboard, a shop local Vacaville virtual marketplace, and a manufacturing retention program. A full economic recovery is not expected until the year 2024.
Some of this information you can also find on our economic development webpage, where you can actually see the economic recovery dashboard and the actual strategy itself. So all those strategies and initiatives are used to target specific industries. At the core of all economic development departments' efforts are these 4 basic programs: marketing, business retention, expansion, and attraction, work with the entrepreneurial community to create startups, and workforce development. A strong marketing and communications plan is instrumental to our efforts. We do our best to tell the city story through many communication channels, including our city webpage. We also advertise in specific industry publications that correspond to our target industries. These type of advertisements you will not see. However, we also advertise in more commonly read publications to increase the general public awareness of the city of Vacaville and the investment opportunities that exist here. A few examples are the San Francisco Business Times, the Silicon Valley Business Journal, and SF Gate. We also have an economic development micro website, which is choosevacaville.com. This micro website is data rich with information that is of particular interest to site selectors, investors, and companies that may be considering the city of Vacaville as a potential location to start a business or relocate their business. To support our local companies, we've created an e-newsletter to share valuable business resources. If any business is interested in receiving business support and resource information, please send an email to please send an email to economicdevelopment@cityofvacaville.com to be added to the distribution list. We promise you will not be spammed. We send only business resource information. You can access both the micro website and send the Economic Development Department an email by using the camera on your cell phone to scan the QR codes you see on the screen. The next core program is the Business Retention, Expansion, and Attraction Program. This 3-pronged program is the foundation of every economic development program. Our economic development team and our partners will conduct retention visits with our companies. During these visits, we hear from the business community how well they are or have not performed in our local economy. We use this information to see if the city is able to mitigate any of the issues the businesses have identified. These visits also give our staff an indication of how our local economy is performing. Listening to and supporting our existing businesses is the best way to help them stay and grow their businesses in Vacaville. Expansion is closely tied to retention visits. Oftentimes, we find out through a retention visit that a company is looking to expand its operations. This gives our staff an opportunity to work with the company to stay and expand their operations in Vacaville. The last program and the most elusive is attraction. This requires aggressive marketing of the city's targeted industries and assets. This program communicates to potential companies what Vacaville's competitive advantage is. This program also indicates what the investment opportunities are, assets and resources Vacaville has that can support the target industry. A few examples would be lower industrial land costs, strong education partners who produce the talent the companies need, and a streamlined city development process. As a part of the City Council strategic plan, very specifically implementation strategy number 4, the Economic Development Department has been tasked with developing an entrepreneurial program to assist those interested in starting a business. Entrepreneurship is also important to the local economy, as it has the ability to improve standards of living and create wealth, not only for the entrepreneurs, but also for related businesses in our community. Entrepreneurs also help drive change with innovation, where new and improved products enable new markets to be developed. Workforce development. So workforce development is an essential component of economic development as well in any economic climate. It consists of relatively wide range of activities, policies, and programs to create, sustain, and retain a viable workforce that can support current and future businesses and industry. The cities in Solano County are very fortunate to have a very high-level workforce development board that actively supports the city's economic development efforts. And a common goal between economic development organizations and our workforce development board is to strengthen the local talent pool of workers to match the needs of the local and regional employers. So now that we've kind of gone through what those programs are in economic development, we thought we'd take an opportunity to give you some program updates, as all of the things we just mentioned are actually being implemented as we speak. Our marketing and communication efforts are ongoing, and we will be advertising in several publications over the next 3 months to position Vacaville as a great place to do business. On the industry-specific side, we'll be featured in Business Facilities Magazine, which is an industry-specific trade publication that goes out to many site selectors and real estate professionals who are looking to bring companies into very specific communities. And then later this month, we will have a feature story in SF Gate, which will run in numerous Hearst publications in targeted markets across the entire United States. Our Business Retention, Expansion, and Attraction Program has been updated to include the support of the Workforce Development Board of Solano County and the Vacaville Chamber of Commerce. Connecting with the business community on a regular basis is one of the most important economic development efforts. These visits allow staff to hear directly from the business community what difficulties they may be experiencing due to market conditions or with government policies. We hope to begin re-engaging with our major employers and small businesses to offer assistance and to gather business intelligence. In partnership with the Solano County Small Business Development Center and the Vacaville Chamber of Commerce Young Professionals, we will be convening the Vacaville Entrepreneur Roundtable to identify and connect with local entrepreneurs. Our entrepreneurial and small business development program kicked off on September 23rd, and a second kickoff and orientation is scheduled for this Thursday, October 7th at 8 a.m. at Journey Coffee downtown. Economic development staff is also in conversation with the leadership team at NOIs, a Silicon Valley accelerator that can assist startups at every level of development. Staff is working with the Chamber of Commerce to assist with the development of a small business retention outreach program as well. Our workforce development efforts also are underway. Staff is currently working with the Workforce Development Board of Solano County to develop a data logistics training program, as there is a need in the logistics industry for these type of workers. These are higher value positions and pay a higher wage than a typical warehouseman. The city is also very fortunate to have the Solano County Solano College Biotechnology Campus in Vacaville. The work that Professors Jim DeClos and Michael Silva and their staff are doing play a critical role in the city's biotechnology initiative. Solano College is literally producing the talent that the biomanufacturing industry needs. Lastly, we have Matt Gardner, who is the president of the California Biomanufacturing Center, the newly formed nonprofit that is also working with the city and the Workforce Development Board to develop a biotech lab technician training program that can help those displaced workers due to the pandemic. Rounding out our program updates is broadband. As you may know, the city was awarded an economic adjustment grant from the Federal Economic Development Administration to create a broadband master plan. This grant provides $187,500 with a 75% match of city funds. The estimated cost of developing the master plan is approximately $250,000. Broadband access is viewed by cities nationwide as an important factor in lowering business cost, improving productivity, attracting businesses, retaining highly skilled residents, and creating sustainable jobs in economies fueled by entrepreneurship, innovation, and creativity. The city issued a request for proposal on September 3rd with a submission deadline of September 30th. 4 proposals were submitted, and staff will be reviewing those proposals over the next 2 weeks. The goal is to have a consultant selected in the master planning process to begin sometime in mid-December.
Measuring economic development success is important to accurately gauge if policies, programs, and projects are leading to a successful economic growth in the economy. Measuring success is both quantitative and qualitative and requires constant monitoring to assess the impact of the community. The more visible part of economic development success does in fact come from numbers. Staff monitors the following indicators which informs us of the strength or growth in the local economy. We have employment, increases tax revenue, new jobs created, number of companies attracted, and impacts on key economic indicators. Number of jobs created is quite often what most elected officials focus on when discussing economic growth. This is a very important component of measuring economic development success. Most new jobs created do not come from new companies moving to a community, but in fact come from current companies simply expanding their operations and increasing the workforce. While economic development is largely measured in numbers and quantitative data, the qualitative components of economic development are equally as important. The feel of the community created by the businesses that become part of the fabric of the community, employees that volunteer, social events, public art, and placemaking may not have a direct correlation to economic data. They certainly add to the quality of life, making Vacaville a more attractive community to locate a business. Case in point, Sonoma Springs, Nebula, Beer 40, and Moxie have provided a far more vibrant downtown feel. Outdoor dining has also provided a sense of community in the downtown core. Placemaking creates or enhances a community's assets to improve its overall attractiveness and livability. Public art, unique signage, and other unique features that are attractive increase economic development opportunities because there is a sense of place there. Many great cities start with a great downtown, creating a walkable, bike-friendly downtown core with a mix of retail and residential leads to a vibrant downtown core.
So to do the work in economic development, we require a lot of partnerships. Our work is one of the most collaborative in city government, and to be successful, we often rely on the resources of internal and external partners. To be successful, economic development needs the support of both. Our external partners are very important to our efforts to grow the economy. Our team works closely with all of these organizations you see on the screen, and each of them provides resources to the business community. We often partner on different initiatives that includes marketing, workforce development, and tourism. Most recently, during the week of September 13th, we all partnered to promote our small businesses during National Small Business Week. And this week, we are partnering with the Solano College and Vacaville Unified School District to celebrate Manufacturing Week. Last Friday, staff took a group of Vaca High students on a tour of local manufacturer Wonder Bar. Their staff shared with the students the many careers that exist in the manufacturing industry. Later that morning, students were given a virtual tour of the Solano College Advanced Manufacturing Lab. This cutting-edge facility is used to educate and produce some of the best manufacturing technicians in the Bay Area. I'd like to give a big shout out and a thank you to our Economic Development Advisory Committee Chair, Ed Santapadre, and his staff at Vaca Unified School District, Solano College instructor Doug Green, Sarah Harper from All Weather Architectural Aluminum, Wayne Frolick, Division President for Wonder Bar, and his generous staff for making last Friday a great success. Nearly every city department plays a role in economic development. Our communications department helps to tell our story so that businesses and investors are aware of the economic opportunity that's here in our community. Our community development department works with our team to help businesses find the appropriate place in the city to begin their business. Our public works and utilities departments, although separate departments, work seamlessly together to provide the crucial infrastructure in our business parks and throughout the city. Public infrastructure is one of the most critical aspects of our work and one of the most important assets for our community. Our community services is also a key player in our efforts to attract high-value businesses, because enhanced parks and quality community centers are important to residents and equally important to the employees of potential businesses looking to come to Vacaville. Our finance department administers the fee deferral program that helps our small businesses make payments or delay payment of fees if they're not able to pay these fees up front. Our housing department. Housing types are important to our work. Housing diversity will allow the city to retain its employees, keeping wealth in the community and growing our local economy. Our information technologies department. Creating a citywide broadband network is critical for the companies in the city, as now they are all pushing big data. COVID also showed how critical it is for the overall community because many students were attending virtual classes at home and many families were working from home. Police and fire, last but certainly not least, our life safety officers. Keeping the community safe is important for businesses looking to invest in the community. Now, there are a couple other internal partners that are not city departments, and those are the planning commissioners, community services commissioners, the Economic Development Advisory Committee, members of the Vacaville City Council. You are all economic developers as well. Through your roles, policies can be created to catalyze the growth of our economy. Without the collaboration and support of our internal and external economic development partners, our efforts would not be successful with very little positive community impact. So community impact is so very much important. This is why we do the work that we do. Economic development is attracting and growing businesses, creating and retaining jobs, and making our communities a better place to live. Attracting and growing businesses strengthens our economy, providing locally produced goods and services. Strong businesses pay taxes that go for vital services such as schools, roads, fire, and police. Businesses also provide good jobs that put money in people's pockets and allow for a higher quality of life. Economic development has a lasting impact on the community. Job providers purchase goods and services they need to operate, and their workers purchase goods and services they need to live. Money changes hand many times as it flows through the local economy and creates overall prosperity enjoyed by all residents. Economic development has a major impact on the places where we live, work, and play. Putting vacant or abandoned buildings and land back into productive use is a major function of our work. This helps keep businesses located in urban areas where sewer, water, and other services are already present. Economic development retains and attracts talented people. Communities that provide quality jobs and great places to live and work are a magnet for folks of all ages. As a result, these places have a strong future. Economic development also fosters the entrepreneurial spirit that resides in our creative and ambitious citizens. By providing access to ideas, investment, and expert advice, new companies can be created to help assure Vacaville's economy stays innovative and diverse. So, as we stated at the beginning of this presentation, the definition of economic development may be very simple. However, the work itself is very complex. If done well, the end result is a vibrant, economically strong community where residents and employees both enjoy living, working, and playing. That concludes our presentation, and Tim and I are very happy to answer any questions or address any comments.
Thank you, Mr. Burris. That was a fantastic presentation. Let me see if I have any hands up. I do have Councilmember Silva.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Don. Thank you, Tim. Fantastic presentation. Nice overview of what you and the team have been committed towards establishing in our community. I was kind of hoping to hear or see if you can comment a little bit about micro enterprises and when we talk about economic development, what opportunities there have been. I know there's been some work, and actually currently, this minute right now, the CBDC is putting on another information session on micro enterprises. Could you comment a little bit more about micro enterprises and what that offers individuals?
Definitely. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Silva. So micro enterprises are actually kind of rising to the top for many people that are in the small business community. I know locally here in Solano County, our county just recently issued a new program for home-based businesses. Oftentimes, those type of small micro enterprises have a lot of hurdles or obstacles to overcome because they're not well funded, not located in traditional commercial areas, or actually have commercial equipment for operations. These new programs actually will increase entrepreneurship in our community because it definitely removes a lot of barriers. So we're hoping to actually be able to roll some micro enterprise work into our entrepreneurship program. And we're looking at attending actually an EDA, Economic Development Administration webinar here in the next few weeks to learn more about how cities can access funds to help create these programs. But they're great programs that can actually help lift some of our average citizens out of poverty and actually helps bring more income into their households.
Thank you. Thanks for explaining that. And kind of along those lines, I think based on, sorry, there's an echo. But California, based on the census results, the largest growing population in California is the Hispanic ethnic population. I know there's a lot of jobs that are out there that have within their job description that state that they preference having Spanish speakers. Are there any efforts towards actually helping address our current Spanish-speaking population or helping to work with existing bilingual programs? I know Vacaville Unified has a bilingual K-6 program, but looking at how we can focus on that bilingual population that we're educating and be able to take and use those skill sets that being bilingual to be able to apply to these different job shortages in the available workforce for those positions.
So the way that we can assist with that oftentimes depends on what the actual service or product is that the business is offering. So a good example, and I'm giving this example, but unfortunately it doesn't directly correlate with the city of Vacaville because we actually don't have this type of market yet. But generally speaking, there is a distribution company called the Marquez Brothers. So they provide products very specifically for the Latinx community. So they often are looking for employees that are definitely bilingual. As they're going out into the Latinx community, they need to be able to communicate very succinctly with not only those businesses, but with their potential customers. So in that case, what we normally do is work with our workforce development board, and we will create a business expo that very specifically will target speakers, whether you need Spanish speakers or Tagalog speakers. That is a way that we try to help to assist those businesses. But generally speaking, it really depends on what the business is, what their model is, what their product or service is that would require them to have someone who is fluent in another language other than English.
Thank you. And the last question I'll have is, what are some existing struggles that businesses are voicing? I know a lot of us hear these, more one-on-one anecdotal, but is there, generally speaking, what are some common themes that you're hearing out there?
The biggest thing that we're hearing from our business community issue that is is finding employees. They are all, every level of business, whether it's a donut shop or whether it's some of our larger corporations here in Vacaville, they are all struggling to actually find staff to fill their positions. Many of them have gone to great lengths to advertise, market, go into communities. They're actually increasing starting salaries now, offering signing bonuses, and still having a very, very difficult time connecting with talent. The second issue that we're hearing is because of the threat that COVID created in our financial markets, the cost of borrowing money has increased. And it's become a little more difficult to actually access loans because of what the pandemic did to many businesses. So those are the two biggest things we're hearing from the business community.
All right, and just a maybe final comment on the first point that you made. Actually, I just received an email on my day job that BioMarin is actually looking to hire another 40 positions, entry-level positions in their biotech company for, they increased the rate to starting at $28 an hour. And so definitely really appreciate the council's continued support and our city's support and your support and work in how do we keep recruiting this biotech industry to our specific areas. So I appreciate all that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Silva.
Vice Mayor Sullivan.
Thanks, Mayor. So Don and Tim, fantastic presentation. You guys crammed a lot into 29 slides, and I think, honestly, just didn't do justice to the work that you guys have really done. I've taken some time over the last couple of days, last week or two, to really take a deep dive into the economic development webpage for the city. And honestly, I was pretty blown away. And I think the public and my co-council members don't really understand probably the gravity of the work you guys have been doing until you really go through the plans and the different items there. The data dashboard is really, really cool that we have on there. The recovery plan is fantastic. I was going to ask some questions on metrics and next steps and breaking it down, but if you read through the 55 or 56 page document, it really breaks down everything you guys plan on doing and kind of where we're going and kind of what the specific steps are, which I really, really, really appreciate. The one thing I didn't totally see, Dawn, and I'd like to see, and maybe this is included somewhere and I just missed it, or maybe it's going to be on there, is really, as we embark on these plans and start moving forward, how do we track our progress, right? How do we track our ROI, our effectiveness? Specifically for me, and similar to what Councilmember Silva was just talking about, living wage jobs in Vacaville are a huge deal. We've got a ton of retail, we've got a ton of service sector jobs that pay low wage, no wage, minimum wage, no benefits. How do we increase living wage jobs for Vacaville residents? It's clear on the dashboards, housing prices are going up and up and up and up. How do we make sure that we are attracting the right jobs in Vacaville? We don't need more minimum wage. We don't need more dead-end jobs, if you will. And I know that's all part of the ecosystem, but how do we kind of offset that balance? And so the second piece of that is really looking through the documentation there. And I touched on this on my campaign a little bit. A lot of people in Vacaville have to leave town for work. There's not a whole lot of us staying here because of the availability of jobs. But interestingly enough, there's a lot of people that commute in for work to Vacaville. And so how do we flip that commute? How do we keep local jobs for local people? How do we build local opportunities? How do we get people off the freeways and get them home quicker and help boost their family budget? And then lastly, we've been talking about this for the last year or two, and I'm really glad to finally see it kind of taken off like a rocket. But the Solano Community College and K-12 partnership we have, especially with biotech, we're trying to start these kids early, get them into programs at Solano Community College and get them out and get them a great local job they can support their families on in Vacaville. So I guess my first question to you is, how do we track these points of metrics? How do we show we're being effective in these categories? Are you going to have a dashboard, a scoreboard, a report card, something as time goes on and we start implementing these plans, showing we're making an impact in these key areas that most of the council members are worried about?
Thank you for the question, Vice Mayor Sullivan. It couldn't be more timely. We are actually in the process of working with Dr. Eiler and another service provider to create that very dashboard so that we can track the performance of our initiatives. The dashboard that you're referring to that's on our website right now is actually under the COVID economic recovery strategy. So that dashboard will allow you to look at the economy as we're bouncing back as we're bouncing forward from the COVID pandemic. So we're planning on creating the same type of dashboard so we can track all of our efforts with biomanufacturing and advanced manufacturing. To your point about no more minimum wage jobs. So all of our strategies have us only focusing on the high value jobs. And I know you guys hear me say high value jobs, so I'd like to just define that a little bit. When we say high value jobs, we're looking at companies that create positions that will provide a resident a salary that actually can sustain their family. So it is more than a living wage. And we do our best to really only try to attract those type of industries to Vacaville. To your point, the minimum wage jobs, I mean, they're there as well. We know that traditionally the logistics industry hasn't paid the best wages, and we do have quite a few logistic companies in Vacaville. However, over the past few years, and moreover, because of the COVID pandemic, they too have had to increase their hourly wages to attract and retain the employees that they have. Now, as far as flipping the commute, that's exactly why we work to bring in the high value jobs. We still talk with tech companies as often as we can because we know that many of our of our residents, approximately 26,000 of them actually commute down into the Central Bay Area for tech jobs and actual healthcare positions. So we know that if we're able to bring more of those high value jobs into the city, we can have those people work within their own community and not have to commute every day. And I think that's a very important thing for our residents to realize, that as we bring in better jobs, that means less and less people will have to deal with a grueling commute into the Central Bay Area or even to Sacramento for that fact.
Fantastic, Don. I really appreciate that. And I've got a follow-up, I guess, point and a question, and I'm done. So part of my 3 years on council, one of the things I'm learning that I need to work on is patience, and that's always been sort of a problem for me. In city services, we tend to plan a lot and then finally execute, which is fantastic. We've been doing a lot of planning. I know you guys have been very, very busy. What is the kind of execution time frame? What are we looking at here in terms of when do we launch? When do we expect to see some results and some wins per se? And then also, politically, as councils change, economic development in particular becomes a higher or lesser priority. Right now with this council, it's a top priority, which is amazing. I'm ready to move. So I guess, what is the urgency on this, and how do we get going, and kind of what is the time frame that the council should expect to start seeing some major milestones moving forward?
It is absolutely our number one priority. Every week we are meeting with companies, touring them around the city to see what assets Vacaville has and what our advantage is to being able to open a facility in Vacaville. So at any given time, Vice Mayor, we may have 3 or 4 deals in play. Working with our local realtors, we're able to talk with many retailers as well as manufacturers. Because of the work sometimes being so confidential, we're not able to actually share with the council some of the projects we're working on, because the companies will ask us to sign non-disclosure agreements. Now, the reason behind that is oftentimes if it becomes public information that, say, a company is looking at acquiring a piece of property or leasing a building, if that information becomes too public, then oftentimes the cost of that land or the lease rate will be inflated, because now there is interest in Vacaville. So they always ask that we keep the work that we do confidential until they're ready to make an announcement that they're coming to Vacaville. So to hopefully make you feel a little bit better about this, we think we're probably about 2 weeks away from making 2 announcements. one with our biotechnology initiative, and one with our advanced manufacturing initiative about new businesses coming to Vacaville.
Fantastic. And my last comment is the ARP funding request is just right around the corner. We've been talking with the city manager and finance staff about what's going to kind of roll out. And I'm guessing this probably is teed up, but I'm hoping you have a nice package teed up, of things that we can immediately, fund and accelerate and add some ROI. I think some of the strategies pointed out in the recovery document on the website are so vital to recovery from COVID and also creating an environment for small business, big business, all business. So I'm hoping you have a nice list of items that the council will be seeing when we consider the ARP request coming in a couple weeks. And that's my last comment. Thank you, Don. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilmember Wiley.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I'll mirror the other comments that it was a really good presentation in the PowerPoint. I had a couple of questions about that, and just one of them is probably self-explanatory, but you were talking about all the people involved and you mentioned site selectors. I mean, are there certain people that come from companies to choose the site? Is that what site selectors is?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question, council member. So site selectors come in multiple ways. With very large corporations, I'll use Google and Amazon and Apple as an example for internal site selectors. Within their company, they have a real estate or asset division, and that staff will actually go out to scout locations to open other facilities for those companies. Then some companies actually will hire professional site selectors. And those are people that really do the same. They are usually real estate professionals. Oftentimes they can be former economic development professionals who know how to access sites in every community. And they go into those communities with parameters that are given to them from the companies to find that perfect site or that perfect building for that company to locate their business. Our county and our Solano County Economic Development Corporation will soon be going into phase 3 of the countywide economic development strategy called Moving Solano Forward. And working with us on that strategy will be one of the top site selectors in the United States. His name is Don Shadehall. He'll be back in Solano County, and he'll also be working with us to help identify what are some of the best sites within our communities and what industries are best suited for those sites. When we last worked with him, he actually identified that our Eubanks property at Eubanks and Midway Road was not only the best location for development for industry in Vacaville, he literally told us that it was the best location on all of Northern California at the moment for development. That's how important site selectors' roles are in working with communities to bring in jobs.
Great. So basically, you work with some people in California, but a lot of people that are outside of California as well. Use it across the U.S. then.
Absolutely. Depending on the industries, geographic boundaries don't really matter to them. They're looking for locations where they can actually flourish as a business and have access to the talent they need.
All right. And then on another slide, you talked about the retention visits and how important they are. And I do think that those sound really important. Do you do those? What's the frequency that you do those?
So because of COVID, we actually have not done any in-person retention visits because most of our corporations here in Vacaville are closed to the public. Just their staff is allowed in the building. So we haven't been able to do a lot of quality, and I'm being very specific with that language, a lot of quality retention visits where we get a chance to sit down in front of their staff and hear the myriad of issues that they have that may be prohibiting them from having a great business. But generally speaking, if we were not in COVID times, we try to, at the very least, reach out to our top 50 employers, at least at the very minimum once a year, to be able to hear how their businesses are performing and what are some of the things they need to actually grow their businesses. Now that our economic development staff has a little more resources, and now that we're soon to be partnering with the Chamber of Commerce, we might be able to have a much bigger reach to reach all of the employers, the major employers here in Vacaville, as well as our small businesses.
All right. And just my personal observation, it seems like some of these jobs that are being so hard to fill are part of the issue is it's part-time, and it's hard to work part-time and some hours one day and some hours another day. And then when you've accepted one part-time job, it kind of precludes you from looking for another full-time job. So I think the amount of jobs that are part-time does impact the difficulty in filling them. That's just my personal observation. And then I just have one last question, and that is, you mentioned during the slideshow too, that one of the things that you do when you're working with a potential new business is look at incentives. And I hear a lot about, this business got this much tax incentive or this or that, just from general news stories about attracting businesses. So is there a set kind of incentive group, things that you have to choose from, or is it really tailored to the individual business? Or how do you determine how much to offer in incentives that would weigh out in the long run if you get that business in? So just tell me a little bit about the incentive process.
Hey,
Okay,
John, we lost you. There you
Sorry, here I am. I'd be happy to share a little bit with you about how we try to provide incentives. So currently our state does have several standing incentive programs to help bring companies to California, and as well as to help retain companies in California. So there are some set programs that are already in place. And most of them really are tax incentive programs, but no actual cash programs. As far as cities and municipalities are concerned, when we try to craft incentive packages, it really comes down to what does that business need? And what we normally hear a lot about or see in the press more frequently are companies that are asking for actual cash incentives. But quite frankly, sometimes it's not about cash. Oftentimes for communities our size, it's about our development process. How quickly can they get through our process so that they can get their business up and running? So they're asking us for a commitment to be able to give them some predictability with time and some confidence of the cost that it's going to take to get through our process.
All right, thank you very much. It looks
Thank
like
you.
the last comment we have is from Councilmember Stockton. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Dawn. You and your team put together an absolutely amazing presentation and very informative. Love the attention to detail. Can even see Vacaville and the little sign at the bottom of each slide, which I thought was pretty cool. I wanted to thank you also for, I often get contacted by different folks that are looking for different sites to move their business, expand their business. And you've always been so amenable to meeting with them and to trying to help bring their business to Vacaville. So thank you for that. The big question that I have is, I'm other than our location and other than, the workforce and workforce development stuff that we have here in Vacaville, what amenities are businesses interested in when they're looking to come here or stay here? We have some Measure M money in a 2x2 or 2x2 or a 3x3 that's coming up soon to be able to kind of, build on some of those quality of life issues here in Vacaville. Is there anything in particular that you hear often from some of these businesses or think could really help us help with the economic development for Vacaville's future?
Thank you for the question, Council Member. Absolutely. Just a little bit of history. If 20 years ago, when companies would look to locate to a location to open up operations, those decisions were primarily driven by cost. They only looked at the cheapest cost centers where they had the cheapest land, the cheapest labor. Cost drove that decision. Now fast forward to the 21st century, and actually quality of life drives that decision-making process now. And second to quality of life is education. Oftentimes when we tour prospective companies through our city, and I will give a shout out at this moment to our public works team for keeping our city looking as nice as they do in our parks. You'd be surprised how often that the team will comment to Tim and I on how well maintained our parks are, how well maintained our community centers are. Quality of life is actually huge. It's no longer about just finding a cheap place to work. Under quality of life would be other amenities such as our downtown. Many of the businesses will comment that our downtown looks as if it could use some work, but they see the potential at it being a place where they can bring their families, as a place where people can gather. So you hit the nail on the head there, sir. Quality of life is actually number one for most of the businesses that we work with, because it's a given that we have a cheaper market in regards to land. They also already understand that we have access and proximity to the labor pool that they need. So quality of life rises to the top.
Okay, well, I'm definitely very interested in your input when it comes to that 3x3 and with those funds on how we can just, do the most for our citizens, but also keeping in mind future development and attracting these businesses that are going to provide jobs to our citizens as well. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yeah, thanks, sir. Tim, Don, really, like everybody else has said, really appreciate the presentation. Very well done. And they've covered pretty much all the questions I was going to have. So I just want to ask you guys one thing. Would it be possible to get a presentation similar to this, primarily focusing on biotech, considering it's probably the biggest piece of Vacaville's strategic economic plan? Like maybe the 5-year roadmap, things you're currently working on that you can't announce. Maybe bring in Mr. Gardner, Professor DeClos, a representative from Agenus. Let us know what that company actually does for those that are not familiar, and what they plan to do in Vacaville, and maybe any other businesses that will be announced in the near future that would like to present as well. Because I'd really like to see one presentation of how that specific aspect is going of economic development. I know you have a lot of information on the economic development page as well as the CBC page, but I think it might be good for the council and the public just to see it in one shot so they know what you're talking about if they're not very familiar with the biotech industry.
That's a great suggestion.
Our team would be happy to pull that together if the council would like for us to.
Yeah, absolutely. I see no other hands. I'm going to close this and move to closed session. We're going to report out nothing tonight. So good night, Vacaville.